Job ready? I'm Jeff Nelder, and we're here today with Dhruva Banerjee. He's the co-founder of Project Set. Dhruva, welcome to the show.
Pleasure being here. Thank you for having me.
And of course, we're joined by my co-host, Professor James. Welcome, Professor James.
Thank you. And I'm glad to be here and glad to see Dhruva with us today. I'm really looking forward to learning about your, philosophy and work behind durable skills in the 21st century AI emergent landscape. So again, welcome.
Pleasure.
Let's start out by grounding our audience. Can you tell us about Project Set's work, your philosophy and approach in a nutshell?
Sure. So Project Set is a digital platform that helps students to build durable skills through work-based learning programs. The thesis that we have is very simple, which is we believe the future of work is going to be primarily skill-based as knowledge becomes more easily available. Our second part of the thesis is that the current pedagogy that we have, both in higher education as well as in secondary education, is primarily geared towards imparting knowledge, not skills, which means that it's primarily based on what we call learning by reading and learning by listening, whereas skills are built through learning by doing, which is more work-based learning or project-based learning. So we wanted to fill that gap and provide every student the opportunity to build the skills that will help them not just succeed in their career, but actually thrive in terms of getting the job and the development that they need.
Dhruva, let's dig into that a little bit. What our audience might not know about you is you did strategy consulting with Fortune 500s for about 25 years. What is it that you observed that led you to do this work that really defined the gap?
It's a great question. So yes, I started my career with one at a company and spent about 25 years consulting with CXOs. And as we did that, one of the things that we found was that both at our end as well as with our clients, that we would go and recruit the best students, the best talent from the best universities, but they would come with great CVs, but wouldn't be ready to deliver on the job. At that point, we didn't know what the reason was, but gradually we figured that it's something what we used to call those days transferable skills or soft skills. And there was no cookie cutter process to help students develop the soft skills. But one thing that we did discover within the strategy consulting industry is that we would put a lot of these students into strategy consulting projects. And as they worked under the tutelage of a project manager, they actually blossomed. They all actually had those skills. They just never honed them. They never used them because they never had that opportunity. And very quickly, they actually picked up those skills and honed them and sort of made them work. So that learning stayed with me. And over time, I started volunteering at universities to help students work on consulting projects to build those skills. And as technology developed, we saw a distinct opportunity to help scale up that impact at a much higher level. And that's what led to the founding of Project Set.
And so the traditional model of education that's come to us, basically from the early German universities through the UK and then eventually to America and around the world, certainly had what we sometimes call the stand and deliver model of pedagogy. I'm the expert, you're the student, you listen to what I have to say, and if you can repeat it back to me, you'll get a good grade. And so experiential learning is now something that we talk about a lot in, the University of Florida and my program in digital arts and sciences, and also use the term hands-on to actually learn by doing. But at the same time, we find that skills of collaboration, working with people from different backgrounds is what's essential, in life and in business. And that's a model that we've tried to move towards. And so do you see any of that happening with the systems of education in the UK or those that you've seen recently, or is that pretty much still somewhat of an isolated approach?
It's a great question, Professor. I think in terms of response, there are three things that we need to highlight, which is the skills of collaboration are actually indeed built through a lot of the programs that we are increasingly seeing in schools and universities, because the whole pedagogy of project-based learning is slowly being adopted across different subjects. And as students get an opportunity to actually do things, apply what they learn on real world problems, they are starting to show and at least hone those skills. So that's happening slowly. The second point to keep in mind is the skills that are developed through these projects, even today, are essentially a byproduct. So when you look at those projects, the primary objective of those projects are still to deliver what they call disciplinary output. So, for example, if you're studying computer science, the professors would actually look at your output and give you feedback based on your technical output from a computer science perspective. They would not necessarily comment on whether you worked very well in a team or whether your communication skills were good. They may just do it in the passing, but that's not the main focus. So that's an area that we need to address, where we need to make sure that there are curriculums available where skill development is the central core focus. And the third element of it is, because skills is not the central focus, a lot of these skills are actually not measured. So we just work on a faith that because the students have worked on a project, they probably have good communication skills and good teamwork skills, but we don't measure them. We don't know for sure whether it's working, and we don't know for sure whether it's working equally for all of them. So those are the three things to keep in mind, where I think there's still a lot of work to do.
So traditional education measures things that we know. I mean, nobody knows this better than Professor James, but things like collaboration or adaptability, how do you measure those things?
A great question. So I think the fundamental philosophy of what we measure and how we track and guide students need to change to measure those things. So if you think about it, we have traditionally measured knowledge through what we called, established the standard testing systems that we have. We give them tests, quizzes, and we measure them. Then came the wave of what we call hard skills and technical skills. I'm talking about software coding and things like that. That also, in a way, is very measurable, similar to knowledge. Not as easy, but you can still give them assignments where you can see whether the program works or not, and you can decide whether they have the skills. And in both these cases, you're actually assessing the output, the product that's coming out of the effort from the students. When it comes to measuring durable skills, the focus needs to be not on the output, which is just incidental, but focus needs to be on the process that leads to the output. So what I mean is, when you have a bunch of students working for 2 weeks to create an output, right? It could be a presentation, it could be a software tool or whatever it is. You need to collect data during those 2 weeks where the students are together to see, well, are they communicating well? Are they working well as a team? Are they work planning the way they need to, right? So these things are happening all in the process that's leading up to the output, which means that we have to change our focus from just looking at the output and giving our feedback to the students to actually observing the entire process, collecting data objectively and feeding that back to the students. So that whole underlying philosophy and approach needs to be very different.
So that calls for a real-time, ongoing exchange of what's going on, analyzing that and giving feedback, instead of waiting till the end when the product is delivered and then just assessing the deliverable rather than the process that's led up to its creation. Would that be a summary?
Absolutely, yes. So you observe the process and you give the feedback periodically while it's happening, so they can course correct, and also at the end as well. So that's definitely the biggest sort of challenge and change that needs to happen. But on top of that, there's a second challenge that exists as well, which is we do not today have a standardized way of measuring any particular skill, right? So even if I observe the communication pattern in a particular team and give them feedback, I'll probably be using very subjective terms that you were good, I were not so good, but there is no objective, standardized way of communicating to what level your communication skills were good, right? So that what I mean is understood equally and similarly by the different students. Or similarly, if somebody else gives the feedback may be interpreted differently. So how do we create a harmonized scale by which we can measure and communicate the skill levels? That's very important. And there's a lot of work that's currently being done to build this. It's still in the nascent stages, but I think this is an area where we'll see a lot of change coming up.
This work must be really important to project set, the ability to measure durable skills, whatever those durable skills are, and there are a variety of them. like, what role do you guys play and what do you do? Or is that secret sauce that you like? Can you talk about that a little bit as far as quantifying?
Absolutely. A lot of the work that has been done actually is out and in the public sphere, and it's not just us doing it. There's a lot of different, ecosystem players who are working on it. So there are three elements to that. The first is figuring out which are the most important durable skills. So in fact, there's a lot of work that has been done around the world, and what we have done is we have actually leveraged the existing knowledge base and just made sure that what we do is consistent with all the different frameworks. So, for example, in the US, there's a big piece of work that was done in the last 3 or 4 years by a couple of organizations like ASA and America Succeeds, where they came up with a durable skills framework based on some fundamental research done by the Burning Glass organization. And that shows that there are 10 high-level durable skills that are very important. And then they sort of unpeel that onion and drill down to the next levels and show about 100 different sub-skills that are extremely important. So I think understanding that framework is very important. That's number one. The second thing that's important is then to understand how do these skills differ across different career paths. So, for example, if you want to be a lawyer, the the three most important durable skills that you would need is very different from what you would need if you wanted to be a school teacher or a lab researcher, right? So, how do you actually highlight and document what are the specific skills that you need for different career pathways? So that is an area where I don't think we have complete and reliable data sets available yet. There's a lot of work being done, and we are part of some of these teams that are carrying out that work. And the third area where this work needs to happen, where it's still in very early stages for employers to actually come in and say, "Yep, we are ready to adopt and embrace these kind of measures and approach in our recruiting process." Because at the end of the day, employers have a strong role to play to endorse and actually validate that this is a useful and productive way to assess students and talent.
I'm glad you framed it like that. I mean, lately, some of the folks that we've been talking about from industry, and again, I'm coming from an academic background, uh, we've been talking about culture as something that, even if you have some developed soft skills or durable skills, if you're working for, Microsoft compared to the World Health Organization, the culture of the employer is something that is known to those that are already working there and have established it. Yet students coming into it might know, oh, yes, I want to work in computer science for Microsoft. I want to work for the World Health Organization. But they don't really, that haven't been embedded or surrounded by the culture. So I think there may be some ways analogous to the specific durable skills and the culture of the organization into which one is either being initiated or drafted or hired. What would be your thoughts on that term culture compared to some of the way that you've looked at things?
We often come across the issue or the topic of culture when we discuss durable skills, particularly with employers. The main difference that we find is that when it comes to durable skills, these are more or less reasonably standardized for each particular, let's say, industry or sector. So, as I was saying, if you want to be a great salesperson, right, you would need a very similar set of skills. Doesn't matter whether you end up working in the consumer sector for Coca-Cola or P&G or whoever, right? But when it comes to culture, that is a little more company specific because each organization evolves in a different way, and what shapes the culture is more than just the skills of the people. It is a sort of an output of a lot of other things like the processes they have, the governance they have, and so on and so forth. So you're absolutely right. It's very important for employers. It is it is one of the things that they see in terms of fit when they recruit people, but it is slightly different from assessment of skills. It is related but different.
You know, there are certain themes that come up again and again in job readiness at any particular moment in time. And one of the themes that comes up all the time, actually, there are two themes. We're going to get into both of these. One of the themes that comes up is the AI augmented workplace. But the one I want to get into is the maligned Generation Z. So there's a lot of buzz about employers' dissatisfaction with Generation Z. I'm of the opinion that there's a fundamental disconnect that's going on. But what do durable skills? Where do durable skills play in what you see? You must be viewing that through a certain lens, Dhruva. The article said we're not going to hire Gen Z anymore. They're too different than us. They don't know to do this and they don't know to do that. What's your lens on that? You work with the generation, you work with employers, you're looking at this through an informed lens. What are your thoughts?
It's a great question, and it somewhat relates to, I think, the last question that Professor James posed. It's not an area where we necessarily have expertise, but we do track that because it's very closely aligned to the issue of skills. So I think as far as Gen Z is concerned, I think one of the biggest statistic that we are struggling with is that about 84% of the employers are saying that they do not have the requisite durable skills. So there's a huge skills gap. And because of the skills gap, what's happening is a lot of the Gen Zers ultimately figured out that they have taken up a job that they really don't want to do. They're in the wrong industry. Some of them actually struggle through the first 2-3 years, and about a third of them actually leave and quit the industry after 3 years. Now, if you think about it, what's happening is most companies recruit these people and invest a lot of resources to train them to fit their own requirements, process, and culture over the first 2-3 years. And it takes about 2-3 years before they really start producing and hitting their full capacity. And that's exactly the point when about a third of the resources are leaving them. So that's completely a waste of resources, right? The company is invested for 3 years to get a return. And I think some of the dissatisfaction or disappointment actually comes from that issue, right? That a lot of people are leaving. Now, the issue is the solution is not necessarily just to blame a particular generation. So I think what we have to do is to make sure that we rethink the process by which we select and recruit these students into the workforce so that we are able to offer them as much clarity as possible before they make that choice, so that there is a selection process for both sides. I think it's very important that as much as the employees need to select the right talent, the talent also needs to make sure that they're entering the right industry. Otherwise, we'll see these kind of alarming statistics prevail. But hopefully, a lot of companies are actually making those changes, that attempting and trying to sort of engage with students at an earlier stage. So when they're in the first year of graduation or second year of college, and giving them a lot more information and familiarity about what it means to work in that industry or in that company, so that students can make an informed choice whether they want to take those opportunities up.
The traditional model of apprenticeship and even perhaps a more modern version, the internship or the co-op, sometimes we call it in the U.S., I think make an attempt or at least have some raison d'etre to help an earlier knowledge of an employment situation or a career situation. But clearly, those models, at least in the internship phase, at least in the States, have not led to the enough of an immersion to create a smooth transition. At least some of the statistics we've seen. I mean, Jeff knows a lot of these that, within 12 to 18 months, so many employers or employees are just, they fire them or they're out of there, and they've spent all these resources, even though they might have had an internship. Do you see a model or a framework or a strategy that could somehow take the best of an apprenticeship, of an internship, and be more return on investment of resources, rather than throwing the resources after they've been hired and then so much of it seems to evaporate? Are there any models that you could cite or recommend that could help to ameliorate this cash intensive phase between the new employee and the employer?
Jury's still out. I don't think there's a proven, validated solution to that. But I think what we are seeing is a lot of innovative new models coming in, and which one is going to win, we do not know. But we believe that many of these different models will coexist. So let me take an example. I think the traditional model of internship and quote that we have all been used to is where students typically work full time for a period of 6 to 8 weeks um, with a particular company and a particular project. And just given that traditional model and definition, students had to work only during the summer months when they have a vacation, right? They can take 8 months or 8 weeks out of their academic calendar and focus on the internship. Now, that model is, first of all, it's very expensive because you have to travel to the employer location, relocate yourself, and do that. And a lot of students can't do it because they can't financially afford that, or they physically are not able to relocate, or they have care duties or whatever. So that's number one. And secondly, we believe that that model also doesn't fit the future of work. If you look at the future of work, right, it's going more virtual. You're actually having to collaborate with a project with somebody sitting in San Francisco, as we're doing right now, or in Australia. So why push and train people in a model that is not the future? So one of the innovations that we see is the emergence of what we call micro internships. I mean, there are a lot of companies and organizations in the US that are trying that and doing a great job, which basically provides you the tools to work on a project with an employer remotely, virtually, part-time. So you just take out 4 hours a week, 5 hours a week out of our academic curriculum, which you can do if you want to, and work with a client. And you may be studying in Kentucky, and the employer working with maybe in New York, right? So when you have that system, what you're doing is, number one, you're automatically multiplying the capacity of the system, because instead of getting only 2 months of the year where you can run this, you get all the 12 months of the year. You can run this around the year, right? And that's a great opportunity, because then you're allowing students to actually start working on it from first year, second year, and they can try out one or two different types of roles to see where their heart lies, where are they good at, right? So that will also increase the match and reduce the churn that we were talking about. So that's one thing. Second thing, that also has a great equity component, as we were talking about. People who cannot afford to, for whatever reason, to take up those summer internships can still, build a lot of the skills, and that by working on these, these remote part-time engagements, they may not be as effective, but even if they get you 80% there, that's still a positive thing. So it's a great social leveler, I would say social mobility driver. The third thing that's very important to understand is also we need to bring that up to the next level by reducing the reliance of human mentors in that process. Because today what's happening is, even if you offer them internships around the year, your capacity is still limited by the number or the hours of people who are willing to commit themselves to mentor these students from the employers, right? Because they have a day job. Most of these people are not incentivized to mentor young students, and it's not a part of the job description. So a lot of people don't do it, right? So in that situation, I think what is important is that today we have the technology with AI and other things where you can reduce the need for human intervention so much that you can actually scale up. So if you have a mentor who's willing to spend an hour a week to mentor students, instead of just mentoring one student, that hour they can probably mentor 30 students, because they don't need to necessarily spend as much time on each student. So we have to look at those models scale up. Just to give you an indication, today, as we look at it, about 20% of the student pool get an opportunity to work on authentic projects with human mentors. 80% of the students actually don't get an opportunity because there are not enough of these internships coming around. So we have to find new models to plug that gap.
Wow. So I mean, let's talk about the technology and the human AI interaction for a second. You know, in terms of the future of work and remaining relevant, how do durable skills play there in terms of, I'm just entering the workforce and I don't want to be disintermediated. I want to become more and more relevant. Um, like, where do durable skills play with a future that's AI powered?
Great question. So durable skills are going to become more important in an AI-powered future. And let me explain why that is so. So if you look at the statistics right now, and there have been sort of a lot of very intensive studies come out from institutions like McKinsey and Goldman Sachs, or big employers, but also think tanks like World Economic Forum. And if you go through that, the sort of conclusions are reasonably consistent, which is about uh, only 10% of the jobs will disappear because of AI. Because there's a huge, thing going on. AI will take our jobs. The truth is no, AI won't. AI will take away only 10% of the jobs. About 2/3 of the jobs will be transformed by AI. So the jobs will still be there. They'll just look different, right? So the question is, how do we prepare our students for a future where the nature of the job and the tasks that they do will keep evolving? So it'll evolve after 5 years, and after 5 years, you may be in the same job, but you'll be doing things that are very different. You need different skills. Now, in that scenario, what's going to happen is, if you look at what AI is doing fundamentally, AI is one of the things it's doing is it's automating all the repetitive tasks or predictive tasks of an organizational process. And these tasks are primarily, if you think about it, tasks that are based on hard skills or technical skills. So, for example, today you have a lot of no-code software that are coming up, which means you don't need that much coding skills. So, if you sort of train for 10 years trying to be a great coder, guess what? AI is sort of transforming a job. You may still have a job, your role will be different, but that skill is no longer important. But when it comes to durable skills, those skills are all durable because you would still continue to need those skills. You may be doing a different job, but you would still need your communication skills because you still need to communicate. You still need your collaboration skills. You still need your work planning skills, right? And the research data is very interesting. It shows that the half-life of skills has evolved drastically over the last 10 years. So the half-life of a technical skill today is about 2.5 years, which means every 2.5 years, you have to actually upgrade your technical skill. And the half-life of a durable skill is about 7.5 years. And so if you think about durable skills, therefore, it's not only lasting longer, right? It is also transferable across different careers. So if you're an individual who's unfortunately having to change your career, you may lose the relevance of your technical skill. You may not be able to apply your coding skills to a marketing job, but your communication skills would still be relevant. So that's the reason we believe durable skills are going to become more important.
Wow. Yeah, I've had it on my mind this whole conversation. If durable skills are durable, how do we measure that they're durable in the face of all this change? Dhruva, this has been an amazing conversation. This is all we have time for today. I hope at some point in the future we can bring you back and talk about durable skills in the future as things evolve with Project Set. We're so grateful that you had joined us today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm still learning myself, and it's great to sort of talk to you. And I'm sure as we learn more, we'll have opportunities to discuss new things more. Thank you so much.
Fantastic.
It's great. And, the concept of learning is one that I believe may be a durable type of process, that if we can engage in that, it may even have a longer half-life than 7.5 years. Who knows? We'll have to ask an AI about that in 15 years and see what they have to say about that. But again, thank you so much for coming to join us today and sharing your insight, your curiosity, and your methods of doing things. It's been really fascinating.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
And thank all of you for listening. Once again, this is Job Ready, the EFA podcast. You can find us at efa.io/Job Ready. I am Jeff Nelder. You might know me as Jeff the Brand Guy.
And I remain Professor James, and our good friend Dhruva joining us from the UK today.
Thank you so much. All the best.